Did you know that 90% of the world's millionaires invest in real estate? Well, I'm Angel with the Academy Presents Real Estate Investing Rocks, and I'm here to help you if you want to go for your piece of that pie. Hi guys, it's Angel with the Academy Presents Real Estate Investing Rocks, and I want to take the opportunity today to talk a little bit about who I am and the things that led me here, why I've chosen to do summits, and why I've chosen to have a YouTube channel, and why I've chosen to do podcasts, and really just what I intend to bring to the table as a real estate investor. Number one, I don't do this alone. I am a team with my husband, Jason, and he and I come from similar backgrounds as far as real estate investing is concerned. We both came from families that were involved in real estate investing, so it wasn't something that was unnatural to us. It wasn't something we had to think a lot about. It was something that we figured we'd always get into eventually. So I have a lot of past that I'm going to kind of not touch on right now. I will eventually at some point in time, probably not today. So I'm going to kind of pick up in, say, 2002. I finished up my degree in 2002 and tried to find a job. My degree was in economics, and there just wasn't a whole lot of openings for an economist. So I didn't find a full-time job. And in 2003, I moved to Lubbock to be with Jason. He was finishing up his degree at Texas Tech, and so I moved there to be closer to him. And his dad came up that summer, may have been early fall, and found our first house. So we get this house in 2003, and that became our first rental. And we were like, hey, this is pretty cool. You know, we're going to live in the house until you finish your degree. Once you finish your degree and we leave, this will become our first rental. And we knew that from day one. So when we did move, when Jason finished up his degree, and we did in fact move from Lubbock, that did become our first rental. And we got a property manager from day one, because I had watched my family self-manage and knew that that was not for me. And my husband's family had property managers. And so he knew that that was in fact the way to go. So single family homes. We get to our new town, and we're kind of looking around, and we're like, hey, it might be nice to get some rentals here. Of course, our only experience was single family homes. So we picked up another single family home here, and it rented, within a few minutes after it being listed. Excited. Another single family home comes across our plate, and we're like, heck yeah, let's get another one. So we did a cash out refi on the house in Lubbock, and we get ready to get another house. Because we were investors and didn't choose to own or occupy it, someone who actually bid under us got the house because they were intending to own or occupy. A couple months later, we were contacted because they fell through. I don't remember all of the intricacies of it, but for whatever reason, it was back on our plate. So we were able to secure a second single family home. So at that point in time, we had 3 single family homes. And we also had 2 children. Our daughter was born in 2007, and our son was born in 2010. Our daughter was really quick to do things. When she was 2 weeks old, she was rolling, and I was like, what the heck? I put her back on her stomach. She rolled the other direction. I was like, whatever, this is too early for her to be rolling. And then she's smiling, and she's laughing, and she's doing all of these things at the front of the range. And it was really exciting. She was just amazing. We had our son in 2010, and I remember on one of the sonograms, he had a spot on his heart. And it was a calcium spot or a white spot. I forget exactly what it was called, but we were referred for a level 2 sonogram because that little spot was a soft marker for Down syndrome. So we get to the level 2, it's in Fort Worth, a couple of hours from where we are. And the doctor there is like 99% sure it's not Down syndrome. He doesn't believe our son has Down syndrome. When I look back on that, I believe that that spot was there because of additional chromosomal material, because while our son did not have the extra chromosome that causes Down syndrome, he did have an extra chromosome. He had an extra 15th chromosome, and I'll get to it. So he had an extra 15th chromosome. At 2 weeks, 4 weeks, 6 weeks, he's not rolling, he's not smiling, he's super laid back. And I kind of just thought, well, you know what, maybe he's like Jason, because Jason is super laid back, I'm super not. And so I thought maybe he just took after his dad. But there was this like nagging feeling that I just kept having, that something wasn't quite right. And so I kept telling the pediatrician, something's going on. And at 3.5 months old, Anson was referred into the ECI program, which is Early Childhood Intervention. I can still remember his therapist telling me that if I wasn't going to work with him, them coming once a week, twice a week, whatever they were coming, wasn't going to make a difference, and that I had to be willing to work with him too. And I was working with them. That was the part that was so hard for me, is I was working with them. And so this goes on for quite some time. We finally get a referral to Cook Children's Hospital to a neurologist. And the first appointment was basically the baseline. And so at the next appointment, Dr. Lacey suggested that we do some testing, some chromosome testing, just some testing. And so we went and got blood work done. And I remember the phone call when the neurologist called me, and he said, so we know what's going on with Anson. Anson has an extra chromosome. He's got an extra 15th chromosome. And I was like, oh, wow. And he's like, yeah, he's got two extra copies. I was like, really? So he's extra special. We knew that, he was extra something. And so I don't remember if it was that night or a few nights later, I'm crying, and Jason's got his arms around me, and he's trying to console me. And I just keep telling him, like, I'm so sorry that I couldn't give you, your perfect son. And he looked at me and he held me and he said, what if it wasn't Anson that was given to us, but us that were given to Anson? And that was a game changer. In that moment, my perspective totally changed. And I got to look at it differently. So after the phone call where we find out he's got this extra chromosome, we get set up with a geneticist. Now, as the person that I am, of course, once I found out Anson had an extra 15th chromosome, I start researching it. And I can only find one condition where there's an extra 15th chromosome, and it's called Dup15q. It doesn't have a cute name. It doesn't have it doesn't have some easy name. It's literally duplication of the 15th chromosome on the long, it's a duplication on the long arm of the 15th chromosome. And it is 11.3q to 13.1q on the long arm of the 15th chromosome. So I'm researching it, and I find this, and the prognosis of it is really, really hard. 50% of the children that have it have profound autism. That's the autism nobody talks about. That's not the autism of the girl on Sesame Street. We're talking about the autism of kids that never get out of diapers. Kids that never really have functional language skills. Kids that often aren't accepted in society or even by some of their family members. It is the kind of autism nobody talks about. Some of the other just really tough prognoses that I read about were some of the uncontrolled seizures that kids with this diagnosis have, or with this condition have. And I just kept reading all of these things, and I was like, no, not my baby. And so we hit the geneticist, and at that point we didn't know what the additional copies were. But in that first little bit after the geneticist walked in, we discovered Anson had what I had found. He had Dup15q. They had done an additional test, or they were doing an additional test. I forget exactly the order of things now, but more tests were ordered. And we found that Anson didn't just have 11.3 to 13.1. Anson had 11.19 to 13.3. Did it make it worse? Did it make it better? We still don't know. He's had some seizures. He doesn't have so many that he has to be treated for it. We have an emergency medication. He's maybe got 150 words. He did start asking, like, he started using words for self-help recently. He's 9. He'll be 10 in August. Yeah, he still wears diapers. But he does go to ABA, which is it's a special behavioral therapy that he goes to. It's very effective for children with autism, and we absolutely love his therapists. They are so amazing with him. And so we have him going to that. But you see, that was like a whole nother just grouping of therapies and expenses that we weren't expecting. So I tell you the story about my son because it had a really huge impact on how things occurred in our life. So my daughter, who's 12 now, has known and been certified in CPR since she was like 7. And I'm talking the full CPR, because with Anson's condition, he is at a higher incidence of sudden unexplained death during his sleep. So he sleeps with a monitor, because if he stops breathing during the night, someone's going to have to go and breathe for him. And I cannot imagine what it must be like to bear that burden as a child. And to know that if your brother stops breathing, you're going to have to help him if mom and dad can't. So that's my 12-year-old. We also have 2 more daughters. We have a 5-year-old and a 3-year-old. And let me just tell you, all of our girls are crazy independent, but they have to be. And having those daughters and having our son, and just realizing the extreme costs of having a special needs family member led us to realize that we needed to seriously scale up our real estate investing. My husband's insurance from his W-2 did not cover ABA. ABA is about $80,000 to $90,000 a year. I discovered that the independent school district here in our town, that the teacher's insurance would cover ABA. I am a certified teacher in Texas, so I went to work for the ISD here. I had not worked for the ISD since I left La Mesa in 2006. And now we're talking 2013-ish. And so I went back to work for the district, or I went to work for the district so that I could get the insurance to cover my son's ABA. And I started in January to fill a spot of a teacher who had resigned in December, and I became a writing teacher and loved it. I still love teaching. I will always have a teacher's heart, always. So I'm teaching at this point writing, and I'm able to get my son the insurance he needs to get ABA. So I do that. Let's see, I started that in January of 2018. I taught through all of 18, 19. And then I moved to 8th grade, still teaching English language arts. So still teaching writing, reading. And it was a tough year. I spent some time being brainwashed into believing that I wasn't good enough. I wasn't doing enough. I was doing the wrong things. I wasn't helping my students. And one day I couldn't stop those voices. And so that night I just wanted to go to sleep. That was all I wanted. And so I got a drink and I waited. And the voices didn't stop. So I get another drink. And the voices still don't stop. Get another drink. And the next morning I was unresponsive. And my husband called the ambulance. They took me to the ER. And as I'm coming back around, the first thing I'm saying is, please don't make me go back. And that shouldn't have been the first thing on my mind as I was coming back around. And my husband looked at me and he said, you don't have to go back. You're not going back. And so that week I put in my FMLA and I was just going to give it some time because, man, I love teaching. I love those students. And I loved the fact that I was doing something I enjoyed and my son was getting the insurance he needed to get his ABA. It was like a win-win-win, right? And so I kept just thinking, I'll get this done. I can do this. I can go back. And my husband's like, no. And so for my FMLA, I had to see a therapist. And my therapist was like, no, this isn't a good situation for you. And I kept thinking that the tides would turn and I would be able to return. And that didn't happen. And I wound up resigning in February. Well, that is what brought me into this idea of putting on summits and having a YouTube channel and doing podcasts, because you see, in my heart of hearts, I'm always going to be an educator. I'm always going to be a teacher. I am always going to want to bring information and knowledge to people because I love to help people. That's my thing. That's my jam. That's what I like to do. I like to help people. So, why YouTube? Well, because at my summit, I was like, hey, we're going to be starting up webinars in April. And April comes around and no webinar. Week 1, week 2, week 3, week 4. Finally, in the last week of April, I'm like, I've got to do something or I'm never going to do it. And so I honestly thought that I had made it into April, but it was actually May 1st. But the first episode on the YouTube channel occurred on May 1st. And I've been doing them every week since. And it is really exciting for me to know that I get to bring education to people that really want to hear it and to people that I can really help. And that's on my heart. And that's what I want to bring, because I need to get the most education I can get. And I want to be able to help the most people that I can help, because I know that if I can help enough people, I'll do what I need to do for my family and for me. Because our ultimate goal is to create enough wealth and to create enough of a legacy of wealth to be able to have an endowment that gives us personally $100,000 a year plus to the Dup15q Alliance that researches and educates what our son has. And the other part of that is that we want our daughters, once we're gone, to not have to worry about the medical parts of their brother, to not have to worry about the bills, to not have to worry about the nursing care, to not have to worry about anything other than loving their brother. And the only way I know how to do that is to help enough people. And it's my heart. And I really like to talk. So it works out a couple of different ways. But when I think about, what was that moment that turned me onto this path, I think about that moment in the ER when I begged Jason to not make me go back. And for any of my students that are hearing this right now, it was never you. It was never you. I love you guys. And I hope that if you're listening to this and you ever have questions about real estate or how you too can do this, that you will reach back out to me, because I will always be your teacher and I'm always going to want to help you. Those are the reasons. Just in a nutshell, I guess, of how we came down this path, how I came down this path, and why I do what I do and why I want to help so much. It's in me, it's in my heart, it's in my soul. I love to teach and I love to help. And if I'm not doing that in a school, I want to do it in this educational platform that we have created with the Academy Presents Real Estate Investing Rocks. So I am doing my best to get the information out there and get the knowledge out there and get as much as I can out there for people to be able to use and for people to be able to build their own wealth vehicles so that they don't have to be afraid of where life is going to take them financially, so that they've always got that little bit of wiggle room, because I'm not sure that there's too many things worse than not having any wiggle room and not having any kind of a backup plan. But I just put it out there again. If there is anybody listening to this, please, please, please don't be afraid to reach out. Ask me questions. Put the questions on the community. Nobody's going to laugh at you. If you've got a question, so does somebody else, and they just don't have the guts to ask it. So don't ever feel like somebody's going to shoot you down, because they're not. And if they do, they're gone. Because as an educator, I don't stand for that. I don't want someone making fun of a member of my community when I care about that community and I want people to succeed in that community and feel safe in that community and realize that they can ask their questions and they'll be answered. And I will always do my best, always do my best to find the experts to answer those questions that you have. So just know that that's my heart, and know that that's me. And if you want to reach out about autism or intellectual disability or what it's like to raise typical children when you have a special needs child, I'm all ears for that too. I don't have all the answers, but I assure you that I will always do my best to find you the best answers that I can. That's one thing I can assure you, is that I will always do that for you. And I will do that for anybody that reaches out to me. So again, I'm Angel. I am with the Academy Presents Real Estate Investing Rocks, and just thank you for joining me on this new journey in real estate investing. And I hope that you just stay with us and that I can help you at some point in the future, because I don't know that there's anything that makes me happier than knowing that I can help someone and knowing that I have helped someone. So thanks for listening, and thank you for being supportive and allowing me to support you. Have a great day, and hopefully I'll see you in our Facebook group and in our community soon. Have a great day, guys.